Hey, this is John Carlos, and I am here with a look at the NECA action figure of Ultimate Doc Brown in the hazmat suit from Back to the Future. Here's a look at the inside of the packaging. Finally, we have the Doc that I feel like we've all been wanting. I do like the other Doc figures considerably, but this is a classic Doc look, and we really needed a NECA figure of it. Now we finally have it, and there's a lot to like about this figure. I do have a few nitpicks because it wouldn't be a review from me if I didn't have some nitpicks, but there's a lot to like, so let's dive right on in. One of the first things is the outfit itself is very well done, including just the little hibbity-dibbity hanging out of his pocket, the little metal clip. I could never really make out what the heck that was in the movie, but yeah. Also just like the detail on his stopwatch. Let's see if I can get in for a closer look there. Yeah, because it's very little. But yeah, the 118 when he's testing it, when he's showing it to the camera, matching him and Einstein's. And the fact that the little cord connects to this thing. The cord connectivity is all very nice, including this thing on his hand. One nitpick up front though, this thing on his hand in the movie is very thin, it's very minor, and in this scale, it looks huge. It's very distracting on his hand. I've never known what the hell it is. But obviously if you try to make it any smaller it would probably break, but yeah, this looks, within this scale, much bigger, much thicker than it does in the movie. The fact they included both of his watches is a nice detail. His belt looks great, but what's really awesome is all the stuff in his little tool pouch. This looks fantastic. The paint on all of it, but the sculpt of all the separate little pieces looks really good. The tape hanging off it, this is just sublime work. The shoes look good. The wrinkling of his hazmat suit looks good. Not a lot of paint to speak of. You can see the details on his shirt there is very nice. Here's a look at the little logo on the back. Now let's get into his head. If this head maybe looks familiar to you, it's because it is familiar. This was the head that for the 1955 Doc figure. It's the exact same head except for the little bump on his head there, which I'm glad they included this head here because I'm probably going to use this with the 1955 head because that outfit is from the very end of the movie when he doesn't have a bump on his head, so this head would go great with that figure. You can also tell that this is repurposed from that figure because that figure was intended to have goggles to go around his head, so there's this gap around his ears where the head would make room for the goggle strap, which it looks weird without goggles. And here it is, the same exact head, but with no goggles included. You just have that weird floating space behind his ears. So I think that's a little tacky. Having said that though, the sculpt on this head, the expression on this head is just outstanding. I've said this in other Doc Brown reviews, but NECA has absolutely nailed the Christopher Lloyd head. One nitpick I do have about this though is the hair is very yellow. I think NECA has gotten, I don't want to say lazy, that's the wrong word, but they just keep using the same Doc heads and the same kind of like reference sculpt heads between 1955 and 1985, but there are differences between the two. I know Christopher Lloyd perpetually looks old, but I do wish this hair was white or gray, because in 1985 his hair is so white, and here it's still yellow. They've added some white to the yellow from 1955, but not enough. I would have gone with a whiter, grayer paint. There's maybe a shot or two where I still get hints of yellow in the movie, but for the most part it just reads so white. Another little nitpick. The side of his face has this like line going along the edge of it. I am not fond of that little line. I'm not sure why that's there. It's not like a seam. I don't get it, and I don't really like it. This figure comes with a lot of cool accessories, including this fancy clipboard. Maybe the coolest accessory, the remote control for the DeLorean, which is at 88 miles per hour, so that's really cool. A lot of nice details on the surface of this. A lot of good details. One thing I appreciate is the back. I would have presumed they would have just left it like flat and black, but they did include the gray. They did include that little nubbin. They included the little red, like little labels on the back. Great looking accessory. I love that. He also comes with this little tiny notepad which fits onto the figure in his little pocket. on the front of his pants. We'll put that on in a moment. What's interesting is that it's got the Amblin logo, which is fun, on this top sheet. But in the movie, when it's tucked into his pocket, the front little cover is actually folded down. You don't see the paper is exposed until he actually takes it out and like flips through it. So it's weird that it's not the little cover, it's just exposed paper. We have a pair of alternate hands, just two like tighter grip hands. And we have an alternate gloved hand for his gun that he uses briefly when the Libyans arrive. At that point, he is wearing gloved hands, so we have an alternate set of arms that you can plug on with the little logo there on the side. And lastly, we have this alternate head. This is a great head. This will be the one that I'm using. This expression is literally when he's saying, you're going to see some serious shit. And that captures the mouth, the eyebrow lift. It's perfect. Also, it's actually supposed to be for this figure, so it doesn't have that weird gap where the goggle straps should be going looping around his head. I do wish it was whiter. Oh well, but that expression, perfect. The gap for the notepad is pretty slim, and the second you pry it open, it wants to like lay flat again. And since the notepad is made of like a rubbery material, you got to be quick in trying to put it in. If you get this figure, be sure to scoot this little stuff on his fingers further up his fingers. If you have it all the way at the fingertips, it will limit the range of motion that you get from the wrist. Here's the figure with the arms swapped out. I put the clipboard in the left hand, and I swapped out the right hand for the alternate right hand for gripping the gun. And I gotta say, this looks pretty good. Now, one thing worth pointing out to me is that this figure does not come with the hazmat hood the way the Marty McFly figure did. Now, I understand maybe why they didn't include it, because it's not that integral to Doc, where it is very integral to Marty as far as his arrival in 1955 and also him pretending to be Darth Vader talking to his dad. It's a major thing for Marty. Doc only wears his for a few seconds in 1985, but still, it's kind of interesting that they're both in hazmat suits, they both get hazmat figures, and this one doesn't come with the hood at all. And here he is holding the remote control for the car with this head. This is how I'm going to be displaying the figure. I think it looks great. I'm not going to bother switching out for these little grip hands because I don't really care about displaying him holding, you know, like a clipboard. One thing worth noting about this figure is the ankle joints are not great. So, like, I have to lean him back a bit because he constantly wants to lean forward. And I'd rather not display him leaning so far back, but it is what it is. Another thing worth noting is that this figure retails for about $33 to $36, depending on where you shop. And for that price point, I feel like it should come with more accessories. The accessories that it comes with are good, but like, it could come with more for that price point. Like, some people are going to say this should come with Einstein. That's not totally an incorrect, opinion, but I just think that's a large accessory. I just think this should come with maybe a case of plutonium or his hazmat hood, but just something more. I still like this figure a lot. It's a great looking figure. I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. The face sculpt is outstanding. It's a classic look. I just think for the price point you're paying, it could come with a few more accessories. Thanks for watching, everybody. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this figure, and if you want to be up to date with all my latest reviews, be sure to click subscribe.